Kentucky Spin. Our four core values: respect, education, dignity, empowerment. Established 1988, Kentucky Spin is a parent training and information center in Kentucky. Good morning, everyone. I am Nick Carpenter with Kentucky Spin, the youth educator. And I, along with Davis Rodriguez, are going to be doing a short presentation on turning 18 and what you can expect. So a little bit about us before we get into this presentation is, as I said, I'm Nick. I'm the youth educator for Kentucky Spin. I use my role to help transition age youth, young adults that are in their mid-teens, about to turn 18, and kind of help them, give them advice, and connect them to resources, share some of my experiences from when I was that age, transitioning into adulthood, and try to help just overall that part of their life run as smoothly as possible. And I will hand it over to Davis so he can introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Davis Rodriguez. I'm the youth engagement coordinator here at Kentucky Spin. I'm a father of four, and I work very actively through my church with the youth group and hang out with some teens a couple nights a week. Just get to feel what you guys are into, and yeah. I drew a blank. I was gonna say I apologize. Back to Nick.
All right, so it's a little bit of our presentation before we really get started. So today we'll be talking about turning 18 and what you can expect. So we're going to go shortly over a lot of different aspects of this things for you to keep in mind once you reach 18. And even if you are 18 or a little older than 18, this is still information that is going to be very relevant for you. So just keep that in mind. So first, we're going to talk a little bit about Kentucky Spin and what we are. So Kentucky Spin, the SPIN stands for Special Parent Involvement Network, and we're a parent training and information center. We are funded by the U.S. Department of Education under the IDEA Act since 1988, when Kentucky first received a parent training and information center. The Kentucky Spin Parent Center provides training, information, and support for children and youth with all types of disabilities, as well as to their parents, families, and professionals. So getting right into our presentation now, we're going to talk about the age of majority and what all that is and the things to keep in mind with that. So first question you probably have is, what is the age of majority? What does that mean? Maybe you've even heard this term before, maybe a couple times, especially if you're getting really close to turning 18, or if you have turned 18, you may have heard this term before, but if not, that's fine, because I'm going to talk about it. So age of majority, it's a term that is used frequently in and around many of the legal and social services in Kentucky and throughout the United States. So what does that mean for you? And if you're an educator for any youth that might be reaching this point. So the age of majority, the simplest way to describe it is it's just a term that's used when we want to say that someone is now considered to be a legal adult. Is usually over the age of 18. This just means that the government and everyone else will expect that youth at the age of 18 to be able to make their own decisions and also be aware of the consequences of those decisions. And generally, it means that decisions that your parents or guardians have made for you, like things about your personal care, your education, finances, and healthcare choices, a lot of the decisions that your parents would have already been making for you your whole life are now your responsibility once you turn 18, the age of majority. It just means that you're an adult, so all of your responsibilities that your parents are taking care of are now yours, and the government views you as a legal adult, and you are now legally responsible for yourself and your own decisions and any consequences that could come from those decisions. So again, Kentucky age of majority is 18, so it's something to keep in mind if you're not 18. Also, if you have just recently turned 18 and you did not know this, if you know that you are about to reach when you reach the age of majority and all the stuff tied to that. So you're fully responsible, again, just reiterating, responsible for your decisions, your financial, educational, health, and social matters. There is one exception to the age of majority, and that's just that you can't purchase alcohol until you're 21. And also the age of majority doesn't apply if you're in a guardianship situation. Even if you are 18 and you are placed under a guardianship, you won't necessarily, the age of majority doesn't necessarily apply to you because if you're in a guardianship, um, those responsibilities are now your guardians instead of yours. And for your parents, it just means that before you turn 18 and as you start turning 18, as you reach that point, be it close to your birthday or even after you turn 18, just means you need to start doing a lot of planning so that you can make your transition as easy as possible for everyone involved. And that's what the rest of this presentation is going to be about, just bringing up a lot of different things for you to keep in mind and talk a little bit about what those are, just so you can be as prepared as possible. So legal responsibilities. Some legal responsibilities here on the slide is just things like being able to make decisions about your health care, your personal care, and as well as financial and educational decisions. And there's this nice quote here that I'll just leave you with. Is the key to good decision making is not knowledge, it is understanding.
Oh,
So
excuse me.
it's not
Go ahead, please.
necessarily, I'm sorry, Davis.
Oh, I thought you were done. You paused. Go ahead. I got something to say when you're done, please, though.
All right. So the key to good decision making isn't knowledge, it's understanding. That just means that yeah, no one expects you to know everything, especially turning 18. Um, you might be an adult at that point, but you're not going to know everything. You're not going to expect to know everything. So part of this legal responsibility, and I'll get in here with the next topic, is being able to, while you might not necessarily know something, you can still understand it by getting feedback and getting advice and doing research and things to try to get as much knowledge and understanding about something as you can.
Uh, yes, can you go back one slide for me, Nick?
Yeah.
Just to touch on the topic, I'm more a little bit on this. Like as it says, like personal care and finances and healthcare. That also goes with what we're about to say here in a second with signing paperwork. When you go and decide to write your name down to something that's legal, that's legally binding. Um, so you just want to be aware of that. You know, if you go say get a cell phone or a bank account, you're legally responsible for anything that may happen during that time period while you have it, especially your bank account, any transactions coming and going from it, cell phone, making sure you keep up with the bill if you're responsible for it and stuff like that. Healthcare, you are responsible for your decision making. And furthermore than that is trying to make the smart decisions, which can't always be easy. We're going to touch a little bit more on that here in a second, and what other options you may have.
Hi, I am Amber Ham. I'm the training and outreach coordinator with Kentucky Spin, and I wanted to hop in because we have a question that's been posted in the chat box, and I didn't want to overlook that. So to Nick, excuse me, and Davis, if you could go back, what is one thing you wish you had known about turning 18?
Yeah, for sure, definitely. One thing I would definitely would change is my knowledge of the banking system and how complicated it really is, and better understanding how to balance a checkbook and stuff like that. Because it's very easily to make one misstep could throw your whole finances off. That's something I would wish I was taught more of, and I would change just my better understanding of that system.
So yeah, so what I would say in response to that question is that, and this is something actually at Kentucky Spin that we bring up a lot about transition is that it doesn't, once you turn 18 and your transition starts, you start turning it, going into adulthood, starting your adulthood, it doesn't really stop. Like I was just having a realization. So like I'm 26 years old, for example, and I am still in a process of like there's still new things that are like coming up that I am getting like more involved with. Like for example, like since I became an adult, I've been pretty good myself about taking care of my own adult responsibilities. But it really wasn't until like a year or so ago that I really started actively getting involved in like my health insurance and how my insurance works and how to actually access my insurance and find out information. Because like before then, I would just sign up for, I would basically ask my dad if a health insurance policy seemed fine for me to take, and then I would take it if that was the case. But it wasn't really until like this last year that I really started researching and trying to better understand my health insurance, for example, and how it affects me, what benefits I actually specifically get, and start being able to better pay for my own medical bills and things like that. So it's really important to know that transition doesn't even really end. I even know Kelly and Amber here, they would even say where they are in their lives, they're still learning new things. They're still figuring out adult stuff. It doesn't end. Adulthood transition is not a destination. It is something that you will be going through for the rest of your life because there will always be something new that you will have to figure out, that you will have to understand and learn how to get through.
Well said.
I don't see any other questions in the chat box, so I'm gonna hand it back over to you.
Okay. So on the next slide, we talk about signing paperwork, which I know Davis talked a little bit about. But again, just to reiterate, since we had that pause for a question, signing paperwork, really important thing to talk about because when you turn 18, you reach the age of majority, and as I mentioned, you are responsible for decisions that you make. The consequences, good or bad, are directly towards you. And this comes up the most basic, most common way that when we talk about consequences is when it comes to signing paperwork. If you, like Davis said, if you decide as soon as you turn 18, if you decide that you want to sign up for like a phone plan, and this is an example Kelly gave me, if you sign up for like a 2-year phone contract, and you sign it, you put your name on it, and then a year later you decide you don't want that phone or want that contract anymore, and you don't want to pay it, well, that's unfortunately you signed a contract saying that you're going to commit to a 2-year phone bill. So you're going to be paying off that phone for the next year. Even if you don't want it or if you don't want that contract or that service anymore, you're going to be stuck with it. Um, because you signed a legal binding document as an 18-year-old, as an adult, saying that you were financially able to take care of that phone bill. And this goes to a lot of other things. It's not just signing for phones. Anytime you sign a document, once you've reached the age of majority at the age of 18, you are legally responsible. Whatever that contract says that you are supposed to do, you are legally responsible to make sure that you resolve that. And some do have voids and you can get out of them in some ways if by doing this or that, but you need to keep that in mind that once you put your name on it and that contract is gone, you have legally stated that you are going to fulfill your side of that contract. So that's why it's always important to, like here on this next slide, when it comes to signing paperwork and making adult decisions, it's okay to find someone to help you. So everyone, even adults, even grown people who are like in their 30s, 40s, 50s, etc., everyone uses supported decision making. We have a whole thing on this in our Bridging the Gap training where we talk about supported decision making, but I'm just going to give you all the short version. So when we talk about supported decision making and what that is, it's being able to make a decision with support from someone else. So it's like if you're driving a car, if you have your own car and there's something wrong with the car and you need to get the car fixed. Supported decision making is an example of talking to a mechanic and asking them for their advice and what they would do, how they would look at the situation, how they would resolve that car problem. Um, or like when it comes to like when you turn 18 and you have to start filing your own taxes, it's okay to get someone who's tax savvy or to hire an accountant. I pay an accountant to take care of my taxes because I personally, as an adult, I'm not going to mess with the IRS and mess with messing my taxes up. So I just pay someone to do it every year. Um, it's perfectly okay to ask someone for help when it comes to making a decision. You don't have to make decisions on your own. I would recommend not doing that. Yes, Davis.
I was just, reiterate what he's saying is, and they don't necessarily have to be a professional. Having someone who could help you could also be a close friend or a aunt, uncle, grandparents. Even like the car, like say you're gonna go buy a new car for the first time, goes back to what we are just talking about, signing paperwork potentially for a car payment or something. Taking a trusted individual with you. For me, most of my decisions when I was young, I would ask my grandpa. My grandparents raised me. My grandpa is pretty much my dad, actually. And I wouldn't make a major purchase like that without consulting him. And now that I'm an adult, and I live here in Kentucky. I'm originally from Michigan. Um, I consult my father-in-law. You know, he's much older than me. I say it like that, but it is what it is. And he just knows. And when I go look at a car or especially trucks, he knows trucks. I always take him with me. You know, hey, let's go for a ride. Let's check this out. Um, and make sure I have that good support system around me to make sure I make the proper decision, even as an adult. Um, you never know what if you don't know until you know it, and it's okay to have friends as your support system. They don't necessarily have to be a professional in their field to be necessarily your support system.
Well, yeah. So like as David said, yes, it doesn't have to be professional. It can be your friend, it can be your parents. Like I mentioned, like when I started applying for like health insurance and things like that, I'll always get my dad to look at it with me and talk me through it because I know a lot of times, especially if you talk to a professional, especially when it comes to health insurance and things related to that type of stuff, or even when it comes to like buying a car, that person that's selling it to you, they might say a bunch of different words, use a bunch of weird jargon that you don't understand, and just start like and just completely confuse you. So it's perfectly all right to ask someone for help when you make those big decisions, because those are big life decisions, like getting health insurance, buying a car, renting an apartment. Those are all really big life decisions with really big commitments to them. And it's okay to ask someone for help, especially someone who's been through that already. Get their advice and how they did it. Um, so it's okay to not know how to make decisions in certain situations, and it's more than okay to ask someone you trust for their opinion or guidance. Also, when you turn 18, your parents won't be invited to your IEP meetings anymore, and but you may want to consider because once you turn 18, just to go on that a little more, once you turn 18, and along with age of majority, your IEP and all that stuff is your responsibility. So your parents, which in the past were always invited to the IEP meeting, they aren't invited anymore because it's not their responsibility to take care of your IEP. However, it is perfectly okay to you still invite your parent or caregiver to your IEP meetings. You can still invite them, and you can even make them your educational representative on your IEP meeting, just so that they can help you look for obstacles and help you and your team determine what resources you may need to be in a successful transitioning state into adulthood. Yes, Davis.
Just to clarify, representative is someone who speaks for you. Um,
Yes.
you guys should have the same common goal, but if you're maybe too shy to speak up for yourself, maybe at your IEP or any other position where you're being represented, to have someone that you trust to speak for you. That's what representative means, is to have someone speak in place of you, to help make you that decision instead of you. Um, not necessarily instead of you, but like to be with you, to support you and make that with you, but speak for you, because you may be too shy, maybe to your doctor if you have a medical problem, or here in this aspect for your IEP or something else that's going on.
Yeah. Thank you, Davis, for clarifying that. And so here, this next slide is kind of a big one. So we'll just take our time to kind of go through it. We're going to talk about selective services. So selective service. And like I said, this is a big topic to get into, and I'm only gonna scratch the top of the iceberg with this. Um, but selective service registration. What is this? It is the way that our government keeps a list of names of men from which to draw from in case of a national emergency that would require a rapid expansion of our armed forces. This selection is usually known as a draft and is usually employed when the military must be expanded because of the threat of or an outbreak of war. And by registering all young men when they turn 18, the selective service ensures that a future draft would be fair and that they would have a good pool to get from. Registering with selective service does not mean that you are joining the military, however. So why is selective service needed? America's leaders agreed that despite the success of the all-volunteer force, registration with selective service must continue as a key component of national security strategy. In the United States, all males are required to sign up for selective service. So that means that once you turn 18, if you are a male, you are required to sign up. There are a couple of exceptions, which I will get into shortly, but otherwise, you are required to sign up if you are legally of age and you are a male. According to the Selective Service System's website, men who have a disability and who live at home must register with Selective Service if they can reasonably leave their homes and move about independently. The only exemption for this are if you can only leave home with medical assistance, for example, with the help of an ambulance or a nurse or EMT, or if the man is placed in a long-term care facility or mental institution on or before his 18th birthday and remains there. Now, again, even with just those two exemptions, it's really important for you to know that just because you registered, it does not mean that you will be required to serve. This is just to have a database of able-bodied men, but the military does extensive physical and mental evaluations of all candidates before accepting them into their ranks. Most disabilities will disqualify individuals from active duty, but they must still register regardless, because failure to register can lead to fines and or disqualification to some government resources like FAFSA. And just to kind of share my own personal story with Selective Services, a very, very long time ago, right after I turned 18, I took, you may be familiar with this, I took a exam called the ASVAB, which is it's a military like aptitude test. And when I took it, I got a call a couple months later from a recruiter who was really interested in having me come work for the military because he said that I did really good or whatever, and said a bunch of other things. But when he found out that I was when he found out I had a disability, and he found out that my disability at the time required medication, he told me that I was not suitable for active service because I couldn't, because of a situation. I could not be put in a situation where I would be without my medication. Um, so he told me that I wouldn't be suitable for active service. Now, not necessarily, that doesn't mean that I didn't sign up for selective service. I still signed up because, again, it is required, and it is required by law for you to sign up for selective service when you turn 18 if you're a male. But just letting you know that they do a lot of evaluations, a lot of physical, mental evaluations, because they want to make sure that if they are going to recruit you in, that you are fully able-bodied physically and mentally to serve. So just remember that. Just keep that in mind. It's also the registration. If you haven't done it yet, it's very quick. It's a very quick process. It's completely online. At the end of the presentation, we do have the link so you can sign up, just so you can go ahead and get it out of the way, so you don't have it come up later and have someone trying to fine you or you get in legal trouble and all that whole bag of worms. So now, unless there's any questions about selective service, I will hand it over to Davis.
Nick, I am not seeing any questions in the chat box, so Davis, take it away.
Hello, everyone. Again, reintroduce myself. I am Davis Rodriguez, and I'm going to be talking about some upcoming events. My screen will, there it goes. And some resources that we have. Here are some resources. They will be linked at the end of the presentation, and these are both able to be printed out and have them as handouts. You can keep them on you. Let's go ahead and move this out the way, make this a little bigger. Anyways, it's a signature. What is a signature and what it means, and this breaks down what it exactly signatures are, and then transition map breaks down what to expect during your transitions. And I lost my presentation right there. All right, and here are more resources that you have that are different things that are coming up, and these are all available on Kentucky Spin's youth webpage. Looking forward, so here in February on the 27th, we're going to be becoming a contributing member of becoming a contributing community member. Learn from me and Nick on what that means and what that entails. And then in March on the 26th, we will be doing disability denial and accessing services and what that entails. And you can come learn from me, Nick, about all of that and what it to come.
And I
Here's some
will
other things.
clarify
Oh, yes.
before moving on. So to looking forward, these are both future Transition Tuesdays that we are doing. So it is going to be
Yes.
at the same time as this one, and it will be a bit of the same thing. It'll be about a 30, 40-minute long presentation where we talk about these two different topics in the next 2 months.
Yes. And then coming after that, we'll have some voting and what that entails and what that means to be a 18-year-old in the United States. And personally, I find one of the greatest honors you can do is vote and have your voice heard. It's also one of the easiest ways to have yourself heard. And OVR and how, and when, and what OVR is. After school, life after high school, and what opportunities you have coming to what happens after you graduate and where you can go from there. And then housing and independent living. When you turn 18, and where do you want to live? What do you want to do and stuff like that? It's a great topic. And then we're going to dig down and get into the healthcare system and what that entails when turning 18. And then self-determination, supporting decision-making, and guardianship, and all that, what it entails to becoming 18 and your guardianship and decision-making and self-determination. And at this time, I'll hand it back to Miss Abraham.
We just want to thank everyone so much for joining today. We ask that you take a moment to complete our evaluation and include any topics that you would like our transition team to do some trainings on. As you see, Nick and Davis are invaluable to the Kentucky Spin team and working with all transition related topics. So please feel free to let us know things that you want to hear about or learn more about, or issues that may be pressing in your own personal life that you would like a little bit more information on. If you scan this QR code that you see on the screen, it will automatically take you to our evaluation, and you fill that out. It will generate a certificate of attendance showing that you did come today and take part in learning some more information. We also encourage you to sign up for our Kentucky Spin e-news. We have an e-news and a youth news that comes to your email box monthly. This is the best way for you to access our newest materials, as well as learn about any upcoming events that have been scheduled. And finally, as Nick and Davis both have stated previously, we invite you back to next month. Our February Transition Tuesday topic is becoming a contributing community member, and that will be Tuesday, February 27th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much for attending today, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you. Visit www.kyspin.com.